Good afternoon, everybody. This is Celeste Carmichael. I work in Cooperative Extension Administration in the Program Development and Accountability Unit, and I'm happy to once again be hosting the Campus County Connection webinar series. You may know that this series, at least once a month, brings up a topic and some resources and staff and faculty that are working around in areas where there's both research and extension. And I'm really excited about today's topic, climate smart farming. We have a brand new extension team that's working with New York farmers across the state and staff, extension staff, to bring expertise in this area related to risks, related to extreme weather and climate variability, long-term change, sustainability, all those good issues. So we have Allison Chatrachan, who's on today, and she's going to be walking us through some wonderful resources. Before I go too far, I'm just going to showcase the Campus County Connection webinars that are coming after this. Can be found on the staff site, staff.cce.cornell.edu. Under Organizational Development and Accountability, there's a Campus County Connections link, and you'll see there's a variety of Campus County Connection webinars up and coming for this year. If you ever have some thoughts and suggestions, you can send them to me, Celeste Carmichael, cjc17@cornell.edu. I wanted to be able to share those before we get started because I think we have a great program, and I don't want to lose sight of sharing that information. So, Allison, with that, I'm going to pass the ball over to you and make you the presenter. All right, I just unmuted you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
We can.
Okay. So thank you, Celeste. I'm joined today, thankfully, by the members of our new Climate Smart Farming Extension team. And I know on the phone are Luke Hagerty, Laura McDermott, I believe, is joining us. Kim Morrill is on maternity leave. We have Kitty O'Neill on the line, Bob Wavery, and I think Darcy should be joining. But we're going to be focusing on some remarks from Luke, Kitty, and Bob later on. And what we wanted to do today is to spend about 40 minutes walking through some basics of climate change. We're not going to give you the full presentation that we have available for extension, but just some highlights. We want to talk about the reasons why this program was created and some of the resources that we have available to you and what our team is working on. So with that, I'm just going to start. And we would like you to think about during this webinar, if you're an extension educator out in the field, how have extreme weather events or climate change affected your home, your work, your constituents, including farmers, or your community over the last few years? And how can Cornell and Cooperative Extension help these stakeholders and communities? And we're going to be focusing particularly, obviously, on climate smart farming, so climate's impact on agriculture in New York State, but there are many more resources from Cornell and Extension on youth, on gardening, climate and gardening, many other resources that you can access. So I'm going to, again, just walk you through the basics of climate change, why this is such a critical issue, and what our new program is focusing on. We'd like to spend about the last 20 minutes, so I'll try and keep myself on time, but Celeste, please jump in with some discussion and questions and answers and hearing from you. So really, climate change is a reality in New York State as well as in the Northeast region, the US, and around the world. It's a global issue. Globally, our temperatures have risen since 1880 about 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit. US average temperature has increased 1.3 degrees Fahrenheit to 1.9 degrees Fahrenheit since 1895. The hottest decade on record was 2001 to 2010. The hottest year on record was last year, or possibly this year. We'll have to wait and see. We're seeing longer summers, warmer winters, except for the last two, We'll see what happens this year. And if we continue emitting greenhouse gases as we have been, or as we say in the business as usual approach, we will see an additional increase in warming of our planet by 4 degrees Fahrenheit to 10 degrees Fahrenheit by the end of the century. So just to put that in perspective, the last ice age was 8 degrees Fahrenheit colder. So this is a huge shift in our climate. And you may recall, going back to Earth science, that our Earth is only habitable because we have a greenhouse effect that keeps our Earth at a warm temperature. The challenge is that we are emitting so many greenhouse gases into our atmosphere that we are trapping infrared heat, and our planet is warming up. And that's in a very brief nutshell. There is a wonderful fact sheet that we put out from Cornell called Climate Change Facts, and you can access that. It's a 2-pager that explains climate change and the science. Basically, I like to tell audiences that there is a natural carbon cycle, and we are taking, as humans, we're taking carbon that was stored for millions of years in the lithosphere, and we're basically moving it up into the atmosphere where it really shouldn't be. And I just pulled this data today. Basically, in the United States, the majority of our greenhouse gas pollutants are in the form of carbon dioxide, that's 82%. Methane is 9% of U.S. greenhouse gas pollutants, nitrous oxide at 6%, and fluorinated gases at 3%. And where we see the greenhouse gas emissions in the United States is mostly from electricity production, but you can see agriculture is about 10% of the total in 2012. And this is very different from the rest of the world, where economies are more driven by agriculture, and their percentage of greenhouse gas emissions from agriculture would be much higher in other countries. So you can see this rapid increase in the 3 most important greenhouse gases are carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. And we like to show this, showing these 3 graphs on top of each other, because you can really see over the past 1,000 years that all of these concentrations of greenhouse gas emissions are rising at a really similar level since the late 1800s because of the Industrial Revolution. And in 2014, we passed 402 parts per million of CO2 concentrations in the atmosphere. So I like to show this graph when I talk to audiences, because we get many questions in extension as educators about whether climate change is human or naturally caused. And at the top of the graph here, I don't know if you can see my pointer here, this is the area that you can see human activities, and down here are the natural sources of warming. And here are the cooling influences on the planet, the warming influences. You can see the vast majority of greenhouse gas pollutants are warming our planet, not cooling it. And the vast majority are up here in the human activities, and very small amount from natural activities. So what is the impact on our climate? Basically, from 1899 to 2000, we've seen a 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit warming over the last 100 years, and this is just in the northeastern United States. Most of that warming has come in the last 30 years. We've seen a slight increase in total precipitation in the Northeast, and this comes from Art DeGaetano. He's a great resource for our system from the Northeast Regional Climate Center at Cornell. And you can see that we have a 3.3-inch increase in precipitation over the last 100 years. It's interesting, though, that most of that increase is coming in very, very heavy precipitation events. And if you work with farmers, you will know that they are feeling this, they realize this. They may not know that it's connected to climate change. I talked to a grower named Tor Oshner. He has more than 1,000 acres of field crops. And when I talked about the fact that in the observed data over the last, from 1958 to 2010, we've seen a 74% increase in these very heavy rainfall events. It was like a light bulb went off for him, and he said, "You're kidding me," because, yeah, I see that. I'm getting 2, 3, 4 inches of rain in one day. We have problems with erosion and runoff. And he didn't realize that that we can actually see this in the long-term weather. We've also seen an increase in the frost-free season length in the Northeast, with about a 10-day change in frost-free season. And we see this in how plants are responding. There's a great resource from the new USDA plant hardiness zone, where you can actually zoom in and see which plant hardiness zone you are in. And if you compare the 1990 map to the 2006 map, you can see that there's been basically like a shift northward in the plant hardiness zones because of the changes in temperature. So the evidence is really all around us. We just have to be aware and be recognizing that these changes we're seeing are linked to climate change. Oh, double there. Sorry about that. So what are we going to see in the future going forward? This comes from the National Climate Assessment from the U.S. Global Change Research Program. You can Google National Climate Assessment. It's a wonderful resource for our extension system. And this shows that under a business as usual scenario, if we continue to emit higher emissions over here on the right versus lower emissions, we could see about a 3 to 4 degree Fahrenheit increase in temperature, or 4 to 5 by the end of the century. Or if we emit as we are, maybe like an 8 to 9 degree Fahrenheit increase in temperature beyond what we have already seen. So it's going to get warmer throughout the United States and the globe, but definitely also in New York. We're going to also see up to a 10% increase in rain, and this just shows you again, different scenarios. A higher scenario versus a lower emission scenario, we might see slightly lower percentage of increase in rain. Really, what we see in climate change is the amount of change going forward really depends on what we humans do. Do we reduce our emissions in the United States and around the planet or not? That's really going to affect how much more change we see in our climate. So the changes we're already seeing, in particular the impacts for agriculture, we're going to see increasing average annual temperatures, and that has implications for heat stress in animals and crops, increases in precipitation amounts, and this is potentially an opportunity in the Northeast or New York State as we look at what's happening in California and the southwestern United States, where they're definitely in prolonged periods of drought and water deficit. We will have water in the Northeast, and that's an opportunity for farmers here if we manage it properly. We're going to continue to see an increase in the intensity of storms, and this has implications for things like manure storage or definitely for runoff and erosion of soil. And unfortunately, we get the precipitation in these heavy rainfall events. And as you will know, if you're working with farmers, in between those heavy events, we often see periods of short-term drought where there's water deficits. We really need to be thinking about better water management or possibly irrigation of some crops that are not irrigated now. We're seeing changes in growing seasons. Again, is this an opportunity for farmers in the Northeast? Changes in pollinators, increases in pests and diseases, unfortunately, And for those of you that work with farmers in Long Island or along the Hudson River Valley, there's definitely an increase in sea level that we will see in the next 100 years, and issues like storm surge where farmland can definitely be inundated with heavy rainfall or sea level rise.
Allison?
Yeah.
Just jump in for a second and ask you. So a lot of the resources that you're sharing might be good for Extension staff from across the state to use as some background as they're talking with audiences. Are these slides and information, are these things that are available through the Climate Change Institute?
Yes, definitely. Laura McDermott invited me to give a talk for Extension in Saratoga County in September, and we did a much longer version of this talk, and we had really great discussion with the Extension educators there, not only ag educators, but 4-H and nutrition. And yes, definitely, I shared the PowerPoint with them. I'm happy to share it with anyone else that's getting asked to do talks on this topic. I would ask that if you have questions about it, that you contact us, and if you're going to need to make changes, just run it by us before you do that. We'd like to do some training of Extension as we get a little bit more capacity next year.
Great.
So thanks for that question. I want to switch gears a little bit, and 2 years ago when I came to this position, even talking to our regional ag specialists about the importance of talking to audiences about climate change, and there was some skepticism even among our Extension educators, and really I think maybe they were feeling a bit uncomfortable about discussing this topic with farmers or with other audiences. I think in the past year we've done some surveys and some research at Cornell, and we've surveyed New York State residents throughout the state and found that climate change belief is about 81%. When we ask the question, do you believe that climate change is happening, New York State residents overwhelmingly believe that it is. And there's a great resource from Yale University that shows the similar climate change belief of residents in every state. New York has the climate change belief that is highest after Hawaii. And so to me, this really demonstrates that we don't need to be worried about talking with our constituents about this issue. They know that the climate is changing. We can be very careful in the way that we talk about it with them, and we can frame the issue carefully. And I think when we hear from Luke and Kitty and Bob, they can allude to the way that they're talking to audiences. But we do need to make the connections for them and not shy away from this topic. So when we talk about reducing greenhouse gas emissions, that's the concept of mitigation. And definitely it's very important for agriculture. We can do things like greenhouse gas accounting on farms and reducing greenhouse gas emissions, things like nutrient management, reduced tillage, cover crops, energy conservation, renewable energy, and we have wonderful resources in our system and materials and fact sheets and programs that you can turn to if you want to work with farmers on this. We also have the concept of climate change adaptation, which is really the concept that we are going to be seeing change. We are seeing change, and no matter what we do, greenhouse gases are going to be in the atmosphere for a very long time. The planet is going to continue to warm. And so we have to help our farmers and communities get ready for this by reducing the level of physical, social, or economic impacts. So the pictures on the right here are plantings that our extension system and educators helped with in Dutchess County, where that's, if we have stronger riparian buffers along streams, there's decreased erosion. There's so many opportunities for extension to help with climate change adaptation. So I show this slide because we have incredible capacity at Cornell University on climate change. And from everything from climate modeling and extreme weather, our Northeast Regional Climate Center has long-term weather and climate data, to our communications department, helps with communicating risk. We have researchers in the Department of Natural Resources and Sociology doing research on how stakeholders view climate change. And so these are all resources that we can help you at the Institute turn to. The Institute for Climate Change and Agriculture was formed in 2013, and really our mission and vision is to help farmers and their communities respond to increasing climate variability and take advantage of opportunities. So we launched the Climate Smart Farming Program in 2015. We work to foster and develop partnerships and collaborations. We're constantly on the outlook for funds, and we are applying for funding all the time. We serve as a clearinghouse of information, and we're developing decision tools and policy recommendations. We're also partnering with the Northeast Regional Climate Hub. If you haven't heard of this yet, you can search their website. And we have a hub based out of Durham, New Hampshire, and it's basically a partnership of federal agencies and every land-grant university in the Northeast. And Cornell is working really closely with them to do some regional assessments and social science work, and we will be working with them going forward. So I want to turn now to our Cornell Climate Smart Farming Program and let our educators and our specialists talk to you about what they're doing. Just to give you an overview, we launched this program to really help farmers increase their agricultural productivity and farming income sustainably, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from agricultural production, and increase farm resiliency or increase adaptation to extreme weather and climate variability. So there's processes and opportunities. This is a voluntary initiative. We honestly have not yet built out this program. It's still very new. This is actually modeled after the Climate Smart Communities program that New York State operates and implements out of the Climate Change Office in the DEC. And it could be eventually a process where farmers set goals to inventory their energy use and greenhouse gas emissions. They increase farm energy conservation, adopt best management practices, and then they try and do whatever they can to increase adaptation and resiliency, because that's going to reduce the risk to them and reduce losses on their farm. So what we are doing now to really build out the program is we're starting by focusing on developing a website that will be farmer-driven and will be based on what we've heard that farmers need. And this is climatesmartfarming.org. We're in the process of developing it now. It will serve as a resource for farmers not only in the New York, but also in the Northeast. We're developing some decision tools that farmers can use on their computer or on their smartphone, including a new type of growing degree date tool, a seasonal outlook forecast, a frost risk tool, a water management tool, and crop yield tool. We are starting with the growing degree date tool and the frost risk tool, but we will build others over time. This site will also have the farmer videos that we've developed, a toolkit of practices, and a forum to share information. So this is the design for the site. It should be up and running in a pilot form by the end of December, and we will be working to showcase this site and talking with some farmers about it at the New York State Ag Society meeting in January and the Fruit and Vegetable Expo. So you can see up here in the top, these will click through and it'll just provide a snapshot of how climate change is affecting agriculture in the Northeast. And then down here, it'll showcase some specific tools that farmers can use to help them make better decisions. And these tools are all built on the gridded long-term climate data from the Northeast Regional Climate Center. So we've also developed some climate smart farming videos. If you haven't seen them yet, you can go to our website, climatesmartfarming.org or Cornell Climate Smart Farming, and find them. If I can, let me try and pull this up, Celeste, and I'll just show the first like 20 seconds.
Okay.
Hey, it worked. Let me see if I can.
I'm Dale Stein, Senior Partner in Stein Farms in Leroy. We milk 850 cows, work almost 3,000 acres of land. The weather is definitely becoming more erratic and more extreme than what it had been in the past. But today we've had very heavy rain all morning. We got flood watches up all over. We've seen years where a drought, where on the gravel ground you get almost no yield. We actually had 2 years in a row, 2011 and 2012 were too dry here. So all our forages were lower production. We feed 75 tons.
So I'm going to stop and go back, but that's just one of the videos that we have.
It takes a lot. We ended up.
You can see the others here. They're on our website, and we also have a YouTube channel. I think this is a really great resource where a farmer can talk to a farmer. They may not listen to me. I'm not a farmer, but they will definitely listen to another farmer telling their story. This is where you can access the videos at climateinstitute.cal.cornell.edu. And so now,
Allison, this is Celeste.
yes.
Unfortunately, I don't think we were able to see the video, but the audio came through. So that's just a teaser, I guess, for the audience to go back and take a look at the Climate Smart Farming videos. As you were walking through the intro to Climate Smart Farming, the extension team and the program, a question did come in asking, and maybe you can speak to this a little bit, about what exactly Climate Smart Farming is. What does the word smart mean? We see it being used with cars and phones, but it's not well defined. So it seems like a catchy term to get attention. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that and why the Climate Smart Farming name captures what we're doing.
So that's a great question. It's not defined can you see the slide, Celeste?
Yes.
Okay, so the definition actually comes from the Food and Agricultural Organization, and these are the three concepts that they focus on in terms of climate smart agriculture. That's a term that's being more widely used in Europe right now. Unfortunately, it's gotten a little bit politicized, in my opinion, and some backlash against that. I don't want to really go into that in detail, but you can contact me. We decided with the input from farmers and just our advisory committee that it made sense not to try and brand a program that focused on what farmers can do, rather than saying the Cornell Institute for Climate Change and Agriculture. Because honestly, unfortunately, some farmers will see Cornell Institute for Climate Change and Agriculture at an event and just walk right by. So we really wanted to take the climate change out of that and get it back on the focus on farming and what farmers can do. And we are working, again, to build out the tools and the resources to help them adapt to climate change. So I hope that answers the question, but feel free to email me at AMC256 and we can continue that conversation. So those are the videos. Again, we created a CornellCast website. I don't know if you've checked out the CornellCast videos, but some of our farmer videos got on the front page of the Cornell website, which was pretty cool to see. Yeah. So I want to turn now to our extension team. We only launched this team in 2015. We have these specialties, and we're really a resource for farmers across the state. We're asking our specialists to start incorporating climate change into their programming, to provide outreach to the farmers that they work with, to incorporate climate change into some of the events that they're organizing. We do need some more sustainable funding, and we are constantly searching for that. We're only providing about 5% of time for each of these educators. It's not a lot, but it is enough that they feel that they can devote a little bit of time to this issue. So I want to welcome Luke and have him guide you through what he's been noticing and what he's been working on in just these last couple of months.
Thank you, Allison. Yeah, as you can see on the slide, I'm the viticulturist in the Lake Erie region. And as far as like what we're doing, we have long-term phenology data that goes back to the 1960s. But if you look over like the last 15 years, our bud break for grapes have, I guess, increased or are 7 days earlier. And with that, really increases the time of frost. So we do a lot of frost prevention work. Also with that, we do a lot of cover crop stuff, which I guess the approach I'm taking is kind of looking at how do we prepare our soils for this extreme, either extreme rain or drought. And I guess that's kind of the angle that I'm working on right now, is kind of looking at, what's here. I mean, it's pretty easy to see that it's here. What we can do about it now, and that's where a lot of the frost prevention stuff with the increased frost risk, but also with, preparing soil. So those are some of the main things that I've been doing with the area growers here. Does anyone have any questions?
Luke, I have a question. So it sounded like you got a request from a local agency to help with a solarized initiative. So not only looking at adaptation, but potentially helping provide outreach on renewable energy with some of the farmers that you work with.
Absolutely, yeah, I guess I should have had that down in my notes here too. And what that is there's an effort here, it's called Solarized Chautauqua. And what that is basically making more farmers, what they're looking for is farmers or people that have large areas of land. And what it is, it's community solar. So if you had a property that I guess isn't right for solar, or you have too many trees or something like that, or you're renting an apartment but you want to invest in some type of, I guess, renewable energy as solar, you would join like I guess, a panel. So you would kind of pay in and somewhat lease the land and the panels that are in, that a farmer would put up. And this has just started in the last week or two. And there's already been quite a few people interested or coming to inquire about it. So that's as far as, taking a different angle as far as climate change and climate smart farming. That's I guess another angle that this has kind of taken me. So it's been, you never really know what's going to happen next. But yeah, that's been looks like it's going to be a pretty promising grant there to kind of help people find out more information about those types of opportunities.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any questions or input? We're also planning to spend a lot of time at the end for discussion and Q&A, so we can hold that.
I guess question that you had earlier about how do we bring this up to growers and what does that look like? We do around 20 different events that we either go to grape growers, barns, we call them coffee pot meetings. And whether or not you say climate change or use climate change, we have so many, especially even this last year, we've had so many extreme weather events that that we just talk about those, and it's like the weather's changing and everyone's agreeing to that, and then what can we do? So there's a lot of opportunity that's basically, with the very cold winter, we had a lot of bud injury, so there's a lot of efforts to basically figure out how much bud injury is there and what can we do about that, how to change the pruning practices. And then we had a lot of heavy weather rain events. We had almost 7 inches of rain in right around 12 hours. So those are, it's pretty easy to bring it up because it's already there in our conversation. So I just wanted, I remember hearing that in your talk, and I just wanted to kind of point that out.
Great. Thank you, Luke. So also on the call with us, we have Dr. Kitty O'Neill, and she is from the Northern New York Regional Team. Kitty, are you there?
Sure. Hello, everybody. So I'm a regional field crops and soil specialist with the Northern New York team. I've been up here for 3 years and happy to be incorporating some climate change strategies into programming and projects up here, which I feel is not a huge stretch for me. I also am appreciative, like Luke and Allison have mentioned, about how to exactly use the language of climate change with my farmers up here. I do have a few farmers who appear to have some philosophical challenges with, accepting climate change as a topic. I don't know how big a demographic that is. I know there are a few. So one strategy that I've decided to go forward with is simply to just talk about the strategies. And many of the things that I encourage them to do, use cover crops, try to find ways to reduce tillage, think about soil health, think about reducing both wet weather and dry weather risks, erosion risks, nutrient management risks. Many of those strategies, if I talk about them, I'm also addressing both adaptation to climate change and also reducing their contribution to climate change. So in a way, you could argue that it's not necessary to talk about climate change itself. On the other hand, I don't think it's a topic that I want to never mention either. So I just try to do a little bit of both. And so I'm trying to introduce ideas, strategies, practices to my field crop farmers, most of which are associated with dairy farming. They're either dairy farmers or they provide feeds to a dairy farm. Help them find ways to incorporate some of those strategies and learn a little bit about climate change in the process.
Thank you. Any questions for Katie? I can't see the questions in the feed, Celeste, but we can also have questions at the end, I think.
I am monitoring those. Nothing has come in, but if anybody has anything to share, please do feel free to share. And if you send to all participants, everybody should be able to see those, as long as your chat box is open.
Okay. So our last speaker today is Bob Waybright, and I should have mentioned that before coming to Cornell 2 years ago, I was in Extension in Dutchess County for almost 7 years and had the privilege and fun times of working with Bob. And when we created this team, I really turned to him for a lot of input on how it could work and how we could work with the extension system. And so, Bob, with that, do you want to talk about what you've been working on?
Okay. Well, I do business and ag economic development in the Eastern New York commercial horticulture team, so I cover Eastern New York. And a lot of my focus really is to help growers become more profitable. And you can attain profits 2 different ways, by the reduction of production costs or by increasing pricing when you're able to sell it, or at least monitoring and taking advantage of pricing when opportunities arise. And we found that, as Kitty pointed out, there are some areas, some growers, that when you use the word climate change, it bristles and it puts things into a bad light. And the approach that I took to Allison, I've been focusing on heavily, is let's take, so to speak, lemons and make it into lemonade by looking at what's going on out there and trying to determine how can we help growers become more profitable. The tools that she's mentioned, I've been working heavily with her and the team on that, with the scientists, to take a look at what technology they have and begin to equating that into something that could be easily used by a farmer on a smartphone, on a laptop, on a truck, to help them make better informed decisions. Some of the scenarios that we've been working and trying to help the scientists develop tools are temperature prediction days. Can you forecast whether there's going to be a significant increase in heat or a delay of July heat into August, which might affect apple harvest, which can back into when you bring in your H2A workers? Or can they take a look and determine and make some reasonable predictions that it could be a wetter than normal August, so they might need to spray fungicide? So really what I've been doing a lot with the team is kind of being the ugly person in the room that says, well, that's wonderful from a scientific perspective, but how do we tell a farmer that we can make more profits or we can reduce production costs out of this? They're making a lot of progress, and in some instances, I think we've been able to help the scientists developing these tools understand that it doesn't have to be the absolute total perfect end-all, that what we need to work with our farmers is we need to get some interim steps, some medium steps out there that might be able to help our growers and our farmers make better decisions. An example was predicting temperatures. They've got reasonable models that they can predict 40 to 60 days out whether temperatures are going to be significantly higher or lower than they are. They didn't realize that they don't have to be able to predict an entire year's temperature, but for many of our crops, just knowing 2 weeks ahead of time can help our farmers make better decisions. And at the same time, pushing Allison to try to take a look at how can we link and connect these tools to some of the other models that are out there, University of Florida and UC Davis, because there are weather circumstances and instances that might create pricing opportunities for our farmers. If our farmers knew that the storm is shutting down all of the traffic coming across from California right now due to the foot of snow out in the Nebraska area, if they knew that 2 weeks ago when they're starting to either pick product or to start pricing product for some of the markets, then they can adjust up or down as they need to. So that's pretty much it. And then looking for the next year, the tools are going to be able to start being rolled out in January. So then it's time to work and keep the ear to the ground to make sure that the tools really do work for the growers and with the extension agents as they were intended to do and we're trying to develop them to do.
Great. Thank you so much, Bob. So, Celeste, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so great. So we wanted to end up today, before turning to discussion and Q&A, is just talking about some of the things that we've planned going forward. Just in the immediate past fall season and summer, we had a Climate Smart Farming display at Empire Farm Days. We had a grad student there doing some pass-by survey research of farmers on what key extreme events they're experiencing and what practices they're adopting, and he'll be working on that report. So we were at Empire Farm Days. My boss, Mike Hoffman, was just at the American Farmland Trust meeting last week, and that entire conference focused on climate change, and I'm told it was sold out. So there was a lot of great interest in this topic. We are going to be at the New York State Ag Society in January in Syracuse, and we helped the Ag Society organize the keynote talk by Art DeGaetano, which will introduce the audience to climate science and the impacts. And then there's going to be a farmer panel, and we helped identify some of the farmers that could speak, like Dale Stein and Wendy Burkhardt-Spiegel, about the impacts they're experiencing and what they're doing. So I'm really looking forward to reaching out to farmers at that event. I've reached out to many of them and said, I hope to meet you at Ag Society. And we will, as Bob just mentioned, we should have the Climate Smart Farming website up in a pilot form then, so we can really hit the ground running with some of the practical tools that farmers can use. We'll also be at the Fruit and Vegetable Expo, and this is thanks really to the strong work of Darcy Talenko and Laura McDermott, have organized that session for us. It'll again be introducing farmers to the website and tools, and we have 3 farmers that are going to be on the panel with us talking about what they're experiencing and how they might use the tools. We're planning to be at the PASTA conference in Pennsylvania with the USDA Climate Hub and possibly NOFA conference. I just realized there is a dairy conference in the spring that I've asked if we should have a display or sessions there. And then we're planning to continually be at events. Last year, I believe we had the Climate Smart Farming 3-panel display board at several county fairs. We have a really nice poster. We have fact sheets. If you would like to take that out to your county fair, please get in touch with us and we can make that happen. We were also at the Ag in Service. Mike Hoffman gave a talk on opportunities with 2 professors from the Dyson School, and we will plan to be at Ag in Service again next year. There's also a parallel initiative. There's a Cornell Climate Change listserv for extension educators and researchers, and if you'd like to join that listserv, there's not a lot of traffic that goes out over that, but we do send announcements, new resources, and it's just if you have questions or announcements of things you're doing in your county, you can post them there. We also have a Cornell Climate Change Program work team, and I used to be the off-campus chair when I was in Extension in Dutchess County. We do need an off-campus co-chair to work with Dave Wolf and I. So if you're interested in that opportunity, please let us know. We are going to be looking at providing some basic training on climate science and impacts to Extension educators next year. So we also wanted to let you know that Cornell Climate Smart Farming has a Facebook page. We also have a Twitter feed. We have a YouTube account. And we were approached by the Cornell crowdfunding project. And we have a Cornell crowdfunding website where we're trying to raise $10,000 to support our extension team. So if you are a Cornell alumni or just interested in making a personal donation, the website is there. There's a pretty cool video of our undergraduate researchers talking about what they've learned about climate change in agriculture, and they're standing out in the rain. So please do check that out. These are some resources that are available for you, including the Cornell Institute for Climate Change website. The Climate Smart Farming website will be completely different very soon, but there are some resources and videos there. The Cornell Climate Change website has more than just agriculture, so resources for natural resources and communities and 4-H gardening, and that's just a great forum if you have questions. I just provide these resources here. The National Climate Assessment is a very solid resource of the science of climate change in the United States. And then these resources, I'm happy to share this PowerPoint with you after the talk today.
And Allison, this is Celeste. I can go ahead and post these slides after we're done to the page where the recording will be as well, if that's okay with you?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So while you were talking, a little reminder came in, not to forget the New York State Farm Bureau annual meeting for displays and sessions. I don't know if you saw that comment, but Farm Bureau for you.
Now, does anyone know when that is? Or
I bet somebody will chat that in because it came in from a participant.
Okay. Sometime in December, says Laura. Okay. Okay, I hadn't realized that. So, oh, hi, Ave. Ave is
there you go. You can see those.
Can we let people go live with their microphones, Celeste, so that we can have some questions, or you want to do the questions through the chat?
If they raise their hand, I can give you, I can give you audio. I can't open audio to everybody. That would probably, it would probably get messy. So just if you want to, you can raise your hand and I can provide you audio, or add your questions in the chat. Either way would work. Perhaps while you're waiting for questions to come in, do you want to share the website directly, just to kind of show people where resources are if they haven't been there? Yeah. Or do you want me to do that?
If I do that, can you see it?
So what you want to do is go up to your share button up at, so stop sharing your screen. There should be at the very top of your screen, there should be a little thing that says stop sharing. Green button. There we go. And then go to share at the very top, and you want to share your application in whatever browser. There you go. You got it.
Okay. So can everyone see this is the website?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the Climate Institute website, and if I go to the home page, we have links to our events and some of the things that we're working on. There's a wonderful TEDx talk that Mike Hoffman gave on climate change last year. That's a great resource. And over here under Climate Smart Farming are our links to our extension team, including their contact information and how to reach them. Again, we really would like to emphasize that these folks can serve as a resource for you. So Kitty's expertise is field crops and soil health. She's been able to focus, because of this program, a little bit more on climate change. And so she also has access to the researchers here at Cornell. So if you have a question on field crops and climate change, please get in touch with Kitty. Again, the same thing for any of these folks. Kim was at the Climate Change and Animal Agriculture Conference in July at Cornell and gave a talk on what she's doing on dairy heat stress. And I'm sure once she gets back from maternity leave, she'd be more than happy to help if you have similar initiatives that you'd like to do in your county. And then these are the videos I can quickly show you. Again, the Climate Smart Farming portion of this site will move into its own climatesmartfarming.org, and we'll have that completely different look soon, which will be more just really geared towards farmers. So what do farmers need to know? What can they do now to help them with climate change? So if you
So
give
Allison, we do have a question that has come in, and it's from Ruth. And Ruth, if you want audio, just let me know this, or I'll read through the first question anyway. And if you are interested in audio, send me a little chat here. But the question is, what do you foresee coming out of the Paris Climate Change Conference opening later this month, especially with respect to climate change in agriculture?
Oh, hey, that's a great question. I am so fortunate I get to go to the Climate Change COP in Paris. They only allowed us 4 delegates for Cornell, and I'm going to be setting up the Cornell display, which will be focusing on climate change in agriculture and our expertise, our deep expertise in this issue. What do I see coming out of the Paris COP? That's a great question. I hope that we see stronger commitments from all the countries, because this is a global issue. I know that there is a corollary program called the Global, if you haven't seen it, the Global Alliance for Climate Smart Agriculture. Many of those representatives from the FAO and the USDA will be in Paris and talking to delegates from around the world. So I'm really looking forward to learning more, and we actually are going to be giving a climate change seminar. Those of us that are going to Paris will be giving a talk at Cornell, I think in February, of what came out of Paris. So I can update you more then.
If I could interrupt, I have one comment to share, Allison.
Sure.
When you finished kind of talking about the Climate Smart Farming team, I just wanted to emphasize to the other agencies and educators on the call that I think I can speak for sure for myself and for Kim Morrill, since we both work out of the same office, but probably for the other members of the team, even though we are in different parts of the state with different types of responsibilities. Many of us have traveled to other parts of the state to give a talk, or we can share materials or anything that would be helpful to anyone anywhere in New York. And so I just wanted to, to offer that on purpose, make sure everybody understands that we can be helpful. My world is field crops and soils, but I know the rest of the team would offer their expertise in the same way.
Great. Thank you,
Katie. I also wanted to just add that this is Celeste. This is reporting season, right? So I can't really take that hat off. I will just encourage all of you, both on the team and off the team, that as you have stories that are related to climate smart farming or really any of your success stories, be sure to add them in. So, you know, as we were talking, I was kind of poking around the database. The success stories are just starting to come in, and I understand that. But last year we did have quite a few, like a nice handful of success stories that were related to agriculture and climate change and sustainability. So when we needed to share those stories, when we were looking for a story that was really relevant, we were able to pull those out. So I want to encourage you to think about the work that you've done and how it might relate to this topic, and enter that in so that it is in the database and it's easy to find. So that if it's Chris Watkins or anybody here really, or you looking for a story related to climate change and farming, you will be able to find it and figure out what your other colleagues across the state are doing related to this topic.
Great.
Thanks for letting me give a commercial for reporting.
Important. I also want to make a plug that this is really, I think, very innovative that we have this extension team focused on climate smart farming. I don't know of any other extension team like this in the United States. We're hoping it's a model that if we built it, they will come and NIFA will give us lots of money to build this out even more and have it serve as a resource or a model for the rest of the United States. Certainly, the USDA Climate Hub partners that we work with up and down in the Northeast, they're looking to us as innovators in New York. So yeah.
All right, any other questions? Looks like we are coming to the end of our 1 hour. These are short. They're really, the Campus County Connection webinars are really intended to bring that, build that peripheral knowledge to help folks know about programs that are happening, new programs that are happening, innovative programs that are happening, and potential partnerships, whether you're on campus or off campus, to help you do the work that you're doing and build those bridges. Allison, thank you for putting your contact information up there and the website. Even though you have a new website that's coming, the website that you have there right now is really fruitful. There's lots of good information there and resources. If folks wanted to be involved in the climate change PWT, would that be the most the best place to point them if they wanted to become involved and stay tuned to the information and potential partnerships related to climate smart farming?
Mm-hmm.
And how would they get involved in the climate change PWT?
That's a great question. We've had focused projects that we've worked on in the past couple of years. The climate change fact sheet series that many of you may have seen, or you can get that from our website. Those fact sheets were produced by the program work team. Again, we have the listserv where we share information. We've had meetings at past Ag in Services just to hear what people in the counties are working on, what researchers are working on. And so our plan is to try and regroup. We are looking for an off-campus partner. We would like to apply for the small amount of funding that's available through the program work team funds. It's about $2,500. And if you have specific ideas, we did hear it would be great to provide training for CCE educators on climate change. Again, offering that again and making the PowerPoints available. But if there's something else that we could do with the funding, please let me know. And it'd be great to have those needs be driven by what you folks need. So please do get in touch with either Celeste or myself or Dave Wolf.
Sounds good. And being the off-campus connection, the off-campus co-chair, that's not too scary of a job, is it?
No, definitely not, because I kind of help do what I can to facilitate the program work team with Dave Wolf, and it would just be a sounding board for what you're hearing in the counties, helping us organize a meeting or a webinar or just a conference call with people that are interested in this issue in this area of climate change for New York.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you all for being a part of this. This has been recorded, so I'll post the recording of this webinar, and feel free to share that with any of your colleagues or stakeholder groups that you want them to know, if you want them to know a little bit more about what this team and program is all about. So thanks to participants. Thanks so much to Allison and Bob, Luke, and Kitty for joining us this last hour. And that's it for now. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye.